Hey, 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 everybody. It's the Flow Show. We're back. That's Steve Strazza. I'm Sean McLaughlin. We're going to skip all the BS and get right to it because we're on a tight window. We got a hard out at the bottom of the hour. So, Strazza, what are you looking at, buddy?
I think the trash trade is in full effect, right? The worst stocks are working and working really well. The most heavily shorted names keep squeezing higher. I'm thinking ARK, right? So look at this setup. And, I just said to you off air, I think another trade that if we had more time today, we would talk about is the NASDAQ 100. The bulls are back in control. So I think an easy one here is if you look at the S&P 500, if you look at the Dow Industrial Average, we're back at all-time highs. If you think the NASDAQ isn't going to get there, I think you're crazy. It's going to follow. You got 4%, you could trade it back to those old all-time highs. There's probably a trade around that. If we had more time, we'd get into it. But I think the juicier trade is going down the cap scale and further out on the risk spectrum, the same theme, right? Growthy stuff, tech stuff, but just go to ARK, right? So here's ARK, and we're just going to use line charts today because it's going to show this so much clearer. We're working on a massive trend reversal, and we have been for a long time. And Sean, at this point, we have the data, right? We know what these patterns have ended up looking like this cycle. It's a big base. Just draw it out. Look real quick. And it's probably going to resolve higher. If you drop VWAPs on ARK, it looks really good, right? So just to give you an idea, VWAP from the year-to-date high, we just took it out. We're back above it, right? You could draw a little trend line. You could draw a little channel on something like this, right? We're getting through there. I think ARK, big trading opportunity, just back to the upper bounds. Also, look on a relative basis. This is ARK versus the S&P 500. We've seen this in the past at this level, right? You could draw a big support zone here, right? And this is a little scoop and score situation where if I had an RSI on my chart, I would show you got a nice divergence in place. And I think ARK digs in here on a relative basis and moves higher against the broader market, right? If this is really a bull market, we should expect most speculative stocks to join in. I think the relative trend is set up at a perfect level, just as the absolute trend is telling us, we should probably get involved here. Sean, if we wanted to trade ARK from here, call it 47, back towards the base breakout level at 53, how would you craft that up?
I like this trade, Strazza, and here's how I'm going to play it. And it's not something I do all the time. We're going to do what's called a diagonal spread, okay? Diagonal spread is like a calendar spread, but with different strikes, okay? So the way I like it, Strazza, is I like selling the November 53 calls because that's the first level of resistance we're likely to run into. That corresponds with the February highs approximately, okay? So we sell the 53 calls in November for about, I don't know, we can get about 50 cents for them, 60 cents for them.
Nice.
But the calls I really want to own are the March 55s because 55 is kind of the level we need to clear for a bigger breakout. That's the high back in late December.
Yep.
We could buy those March 55 calls for about $1.80. So all in, our net cost is going to be about $1.20, give or take. I'm just rough math right here. About $1.20. That's our most risk, most that we could lose. But I like selling those November 53 calls, and I think we'll get a chance to buy those back or they'll expire worthless. We can always roll them higher if we get a fast breakout in ARK, which I can't tell you when or how we'll do that. We'll have to wait till it happens. Yep. But I think that's the way to play it, right? Let's sell those calls in November just to help us wait it out a little bit if it takes longer than we'd like. And then we're positioned in March at a better price for the breakout that we're really looking for. How do you like that?
I love it. This is probably a new one for a lot of the viewers of the show. Why a diagonal spread and what do we want price to do? What would be the optimal path of price for us to get paid on this trade?
So a typical calendar spread means you're selling the same strike that you're selling is the same strike you're buying, right? So if I wanted to be an owner of the March 55 calls, that's the calls I want to own, typically I would sell the November 55 calls against it. But looking at the premiums in those 55 calls in November, I'm only going to get like 34 cents. Doesn't really make the juice worth the squeeze. But I think we could get away with selling the 53s. That comes with a higher premium. It's a little closer to the market, but I think we're going to get into some resistance before we clear 53, which will play into our hands with the time that we have. We have 53 days until expiration. I think that's the move. And we could always roll those up if it moves too fast for us. And the good news also, Straza, is let's say we do get to 53, but it takes us a few weeks. Let's say let's say the middle of October, we get to 53. Well, time decay has been working on our favor this whole time. We might be able to close those calls for the same price we buy them for today, maybe even a little less, and then just do it that way. And still be positioned.
So you would close the short leg and then you would let the long leg ride? Correct.
Because ultimately I want those March 55 calls, right? And I'm just trying to get them at a cheaper price. I'm trying to get them at a discount by selling these November calls. So that's why I'm doing the diagonal. That's why I like the diagonal versus selling the traditional calendar strikes. There's just not a lot of premium at the 55 strike in November.
And then, so if we close the short leg and we get to and through this breakout level, 53, 55, are we hanging on?
We're hanging on.
March. Yeah.
Yeah, we're hanging on. That's the move, right?
So we're in it for it to get through the chop, right? That's why we're selling some calls, because we're still in this basing pattern. But the idea is we close those and we get out of this basing pattern. Maybe ARK's at 60, 65, and we're long the 55 calls, and that's going to be a great winner.
Right. And our net cost, I mean, if those calls expire worthless, those November short calls, if they expire worthless, then our net cost here is about $1.20. That's the most we'll lose, which is great. I see Dan in the chat says, love the diagonals lately when stocks take their sweet ass time. Yeah.
Yes. So the diagonal strategy is really for these basing patterns, right? When you got a little sideways, but you expect that sideways to end and enter something that's trending.
I mean, the diagonal really is, you would put a diagonal on mostly for the same reason you would put a calendar on. You think that the breakout may take its time. We're just selling a nearer strike because we're going to get more premium that way. We're taking more risk that short call will get in the money, but it's a risk I'm willing to pay. And we could always make a defensive adjustment down the road. And stay tuned on All Star Options, and we'll keep you up to date on that as it happens if it needs it.
That's it, dude. I love this. It's a bull market, folks. We're buying the junky stuff. I think that's the right move here.
Sorry, we raced through it today, folks. We were out of pocket all last week, so we're catching up. We got lots of stuff, meetings and things to do. I think Straz has a tea time. No, just kidding. I know you don't.
Oh, I have 8 days of emails to catch up on.
I know. We have a lot of stuff. We met a lot of great people this last week. Not only at Future Proof, we saw a lot of our friends, a lot of our fans. Yep. We also met with our clients in Chicago. We had a great time. But man, we got some catching up to do, buddy. Woo! Thank God it's a bull market.
Hell yeah! All right,
all right, everybody. We'll be back next week. See you next time.
Peace.
Please remain